Have you ever noticed that certain women walk into a room and something shifts? Not because of how they look, but because of how they carry what they know about themselves. You felt that pull before, and quietly, you've wondered what it actually is. It's not confidence in the way people usually describe it. It's not loud. It's not performed. It doesn't announce itself. It's something quieter, something that makes people lean in without knowing why, something that makes others choose their words more carefully around her without her asking them to. And if you're being honest with yourself, you've wanted that. Not for attention, but because somewhere inside you, there is a version of you that already knows her worth. She just doesn't always show up. You're not new to this feeling. You've had moments, brief, clear moments where you felt completely grounded in who you are, where you didn't second-guess what you said, where you didn't replay the conversation afterward, where you simply existed in a room and it felt like enough. But those moments come and go, and in between them, there's this quiet tension you carry. You know you're capable, you sense your own depth, and yet something keeps pulling you back into smallness, back into softening your voice, back into shrinking so others feel more comfortable, back into waiting for permission to take up the space you already deserve. That tension is not weakness. It's not a flaw in your character. It's the gap between who you are and who you've been taught to perform. Because here's what happens to women like you. You were raised in a world that gave you very specific instructions. Be warm, but not too assertive. Be smart, but don't make others feel small. Be independent, but not so much that you seem difficult. And so you learned to edit yourself, constantly, in real time, in every room you entered. People called it being easygoing. They called it being mature. What they didn't say, what they never said, is that it was costing you something. Every time you made yourself smaller, you were paying a price you didn't have a name for yet. But psychology sees something different in all of this. What looks like social ease is actually something much more sophisticated. The women who are perceived as deeply valuable, not just likable but genuinely respected, aren't doing something dramatic. They've simply stopped performing, and in the space where the performance used to be, something real moved in. The first thing you notice about these women is that they are deeply comfortable with silence, not the awkward kind, the settled kind. When they don't know something, they say so, without apology, without over-explaining. When they disagree, they do it without needing to win. There is no scramble behind their eyes, no rapid calculation of how they're being perceived. They have simply decided that their presence doesn't require justification, and that decision is visible. People feel it, and they respond to it. Think about the last time you were around someone like that. Someone who didn't rush to fill every quiet moment with reassurance. You probably felt unusually calm around her. You probably trusted her quickly without knowing why. That's not charisma, that's self-possession, and it communicates something deeply instinctive to the people around her. This person knows who she is. The second thing these women do is something most people overlook entirely. They choose what they give their energy to, out loud and visibly. They say no without a speech. They redirect conversations without guilt. They leave situations that don't serve them without performing distress on the way out. And instead of making them seem cold, it makes them seem whole. Because a woman who knows what she won't accept quietly teaches everyone around her what she's worth. And here is where the emotional descent lives, because this is the part that is hardest to hear. Most women never develop this. Not because they're weak, but because they've been rewarded their entire lives for the opposite, for being flexible, for being available, for being the one who keeps things together, smooths things over, and never quite says what she actually needs. The reward was approval. The cost was the slow, quiet erosion of self-trust.
You may know this feeling. It moves in slowly. It doesn't arrive all at once. It's the moment you realize you've been accommodating someone for so long that you've forgotten your own original preference. It's the moment you feel resentment in a situation you technically agreed to. It's the small, consistent exhaustion of living slightly outside yourself. That is what these habits interrupt. Call it grounded self-authority. It is the quiet inner knowing that your needs, your time, your opinions, and your presence all carry weight. Not because you've convinced others of this, but because you've genuinely stopped arguing with yourself about it. And the women who carry this quality share something else. They are genuinely curious. Not performatively warm, but actually curious. They ask questions and wait for the full answer. They remember small things people told them months ago. They are interested in the interior life of other people, not as a social strategy, but because they have done enough of their own interior work to find others genuinely interesting. That quality, real unhurried attention, is extraordinarily rare, and people can feel the difference immediately between a woman who is listening and a woman who is simply waiting to respond. There is also the matter of how they relate to difficulty. These women do not perform resilience. They don't pretend things don't hurt, but they have a very specific way of holding hardship. They do not let it define the ceiling of what they believe they deserve. They feel the difficulty, and then they continue, quietly, without needing an audience for their recovery. Imagine living that way, not invulnerable, not untouched by things, but trusting yourself so completely that even in uncertainty you don't abandon yourself. You stop outsourcing your sense of value to how well a room receives you. You stop measuring your worth by how much you're needed. You begin to exist for yourself first, and everything that flows from that place is more genuine, more grounded, more real. The relationships in your life shift, not because you've become harder to love, because you've become more honest to be around. People who were drawn to your compliance begin to fall away, and in their place, something better moves in. People who are drawn to your clarity, who respect your boundaries because your boundaries come from self-knowledge, not fear, who stay not because you need them, but because you've chosen them. Your relationship with yourself becomes something you can actually rest inside. The constant internal negotiation, am I too much? Am I enough? Did I say the right thing? Did I take up too much space? Begins to quiet. Not all at once, but gradually. The way a room quiets after the last guest leaves. And in that quiet, you finally hear yourself clearly. These 5 habits are not a performance you adopt. They are a return to a way of being that your most grounded self already understands. The version of you that doesn't need to be smaller. The version that holds her own gaze in the mirror without flinching. The version that walks into a room and makes something shift, not because she demands it, but because she has finally stopped apologizing for who she is. That woman is not far from you. She's not a better version waiting somewhere in the future. She's the one that emerges when you stop editing her. So, I want to ask you something. Not to challenge you, but to invite reflection. When was the last time you let yourself be fully present in a room without managing how you were being perceived? Sit with that, because the answer might tell you more about where you are and where you're ready to go.